an advocate, on our group. We have money waiting to give to the campus, and they've seen plenty of pictures now, from the We Are Not Asleep and the new We Are King page that was put up by alumni. They're being made aware of what's going on, that nothing has changed since they've graduated, regardless of how long ago it is. So awareness is key, but definitely making sure that the residence halls are livable. I lived in Parks, and it was really hot. I think that's pretty much how I can sum it up, is it is really hot in Parks. Why does Parks not have an AC? Why do they not have air conditioning? Why does Liston have unnamed bacteria growing everywhere? I don't know. But making sure that people want to live here, instead of, like you were saying, waiting until you turn 21 or whatever that is to fly away.
Thanks.
Is it open for anyone else? Yeah. All right. So I love hearing about how you guys are going to get other people involved. But truth is, people aren't going to get involved unless they want to, and most of the campus are never going to want to get involved. So I want to know, you both, without your senators, without anyone else, what is your particular idea that can change campus without dealing with anyone else, just you and your vice president?
So you want to know how I personally want to get people involved.
Like, let's say that you couldn't get anyone involved. Let's say you could only do something, but you don't know how other people are going to react or how many people are going to get involved or whatever. That's kind of like unnamed. Let's say no one was involved. What would you do to change the campus?
I think I would work my butt off to make sure that people cared about the students again and restoring that relationship again. I noticed this whenever there was all this drama on campus, how well I got along with faculty and relaying relationships with them, and how much they trusted me, and I really appreciated that from them, and how I could tell them how the students were feeling, and they believed me, and how they could tell me what they wanted from the students. And if no one else helped me, I would still work my butt off to still advocate for you all. Even if I was alone, I would meet with faculty, I would meet with administration, regardless if they want to meet with me or not. I would call Board of Trustee members at their houses to make sure that something would happen on campus.
At the end of the student forum back in December, I met up with Dr. Roberts afterwards to share some sort of retrospective concerns about the forum itself. And I remember one of the big things I said is, it's such a bother that we don't have the right people here to listen, pay attention, and take the right concerns. The reason it didn't go well is because we didn't have someone from maintenance to talk about the reformations in the fab or anything like that. And one of the first things, and I remember this so well, I loved it, it's one of my favorite moments on campus actually, is he and I had a genuine moment where we just said, we need to try and make this kind of work the start of better communication. And in the end, that's really what I want to accomplish, is better communication between the administration and the student body. In the end, I want a school that grows and thrives without growing pains, as an old gentleman named Greg once called it. So for me, it's talking to the trustees and saying, it's because we have a mutual love for the school that we want to get on this same level and just clear fog about a lot of what was going on behind the scenes. That would be what I do, is establish better communication and try and find that connection, bridge that gap.
I kind of want to do a follow-up for both of you with what you've said. Is better communication, and I found for myself, as I served, that was one thing that I was told point blank that if you have a problem, don't see me, see these two. Were you told the same thing? And the two were the two offices behind you, and those, the student affairs suite here of Dr. Littleton and Matt Beltier. And I found that the two people there, well, obviously number one being Leona, and then Matt and Rob, those three people are some of the most important people that you can have, in your pocket as friends and allies. So my question for you all is, how do you, to encourage that communication, working with these liaisons, how do you currently work with a relationship with this office, this suite of student affairs?
I have an ongoing conversation with Dr. Roberts since that visit after the forum, and he and I are talking about and just sort of spitballing different ideas. I know I'm not a president, I'm not only in a position where I can immediately do these things, but we still throw ideas off of each other because we both want to see a difference here. With Mr. Peltier, I often take a lot of my concerns, and instead of saying, what are you going to do, I always say, what can I do to help this? With Dr. Littleton, he and I are sort of on that same turn. We talk all sorts of fun conversation about the different clubs we could start, and I'm getting the know-how from these people. And that's one of the things I loved about establishing these kinds of relationships is I'm able to gain wisdom, and I'm able to communicate. I stay very active here, whether I like to admit that or not.
So my first interactions with Ms. Jennings was actually her emailing probably every satellite. I really hounded on her actually during this campaign, just trying to get the word out. And I have interacted with her here and there, and I have actually had some conversations with Dr. Littleton before. But prior to all of this drama on campus, I was kind of that typical student who kept their head down and just wanted to get through this. And I think it took seeing my faculty upset in the science department and in Bristol Hall, it took seeing the hurt and taking it personal to want to get involved in this. So I'm kind of an outsider as far as it goes. I wasn't involved in the SGA. I've never been a senator, but I don't think you need to do that. I think that anybody can be a leader. And I'm excited to see how we all interact. But while we may have to go through student affairs, I think that the question shouldn't be what are we allowed to do, but why can't we be involved in everything? There shouldn't be limits to where SGA. I mean, obviously there are some things that SGA is not allowed in, but there shouldn't be a limit to where a student's voice is heard.
And just real quick, you mentioned you have not been involved in SGA. Have you previous to this been in at the SGA?
I've not been in the SGA. My vice president, Andrew Woods, currently is. I've decided if I wanted to do this, I would like to have somebody on my side, so if I got elected, I could have a government that has some experience.
Okay. And you are running mate SGA experience, yes or no? Okay, thank you. All right. Are there any further questions?
So we keep talking about having students' voices heard, communication, transparency, and having enough people, outsiders, alumni, administration, faculty, whomever, being able to hear the students, wanting to hear the students. But what do we want to hear from the students? What do you want the students to be focused on? What do you want their worries to be, their concerns to be? What do you want them to be saying?
I believe it's your turn.
Well, first, I want them to have the courage to step out and say something. And I think that that's what you all need to be empowered to do, is to remember that you are allowed to say stuff. If you want to see changes on this campus, it's up to you to tell us. I don't want to be a dictator and just do what, I don't have a personal agenda that I need to accomplish on this campus. Yes, I have ideas, and I have a ton of people who also have ideas, but I need your input. So I first off want you to give us your input. I don't have a specific wish list of what I want to hear from you all. I understand that you each have unique experiences and have unique ideas of what you want for this campus. And I am so excited to hear them. And I readily encourage roundtable discussion. So I wanted you to be able to sit down with us and tell us your ideas. So there's nothing specific that I think that needs to be addressed, other than we need to move forward and to get people out to tell us what they're thinking.
One of the first rules or items needed in place to cause a decent revolution is a place of unrest. And that's one of the first things I want to hear from people is what are they uneasy about? What do they want to see change? What's bothering them? I want to hear these concerns because these are the things we need to address in order to try and make this place better. I sympathize with Lauren and I agree with her. I'm not here necessarily to carry out my own ideas. Yes, I have my ambitions, I have my goals, and I feel like I have a very solid and concrete way of accomplishing them. But in the end, what I'm here to be is a voice, a representative for everyone in the student body, residential and commuters alike. So I want to hear the concerns, I want to hear ideas, I want to hear a good joke every once in a while, because Lord knows if all you're getting is bad news, you're going to go crazy. I want to hear everything I can. I want to be involved, and I want others to be involved with me. And that's what I'm going to do, is I want to encourage that most.
Can I ask it here, or do I have to come on? You guys talk about you want to hear the student voices, which is awesome. You guys say you have a lot of your own ideas, and you guys have been using a lot of like buzzwords, communication, community, stuff like that. What tangible steps do you guys have, practical ideas that you want to implement to take us forward? What do you plan on doing regardless of student input to make King better?
Okay, it is my turn. The first step is meet the students where they are. We've tried using the posters and the flyers and so on. That doesn't always work. One of the things I've learned as I've sort of gone on in this campaign is that a lot of the time you got to get down and dirty. And it doesn't matter if you're getting up on your toes or down on your knees, but you have to meet the student where they are. Even just talking to people as I've gone on this campaign, I've managed to convince several people who were very apathetic about voting to vote. I know I'm capable of saying something and offering a good point. So we'll see what happens there. But in the end, that's the ultimate approach I want to make, is meet the student where they are. Show them. Get a good conversation going. Get to know them.
Okay. I guess I didn't word it carefully. Kind of what I meant was, kind of what I'm,
It happens to the best of us, dude.
kind of what I meant was not so much getting down to student level, kind of getting their involvement. Like, there is student apathy here, and we do need to get them involved. But what SGA initiatives would you implement? Like, before student involvement, what do you guys actually plan on doing? Like, the steps you want to take as president. Like, obviously, you want to get the students involved, but what do you want to do besides that? Is what I kind of mean. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah, like, what kind of initiatives, plans, ways you're going to work to make the campus better, regardless of before student input comes pouring in?
Well, I have decided that as soon as I get elected, I'm going to make butterbeer a regular item on the Java Bean menu, because I'm a Ravenclaw and that's important to me. In all seriousness, though. Not true. Okay, somebody does. In the end, it's a lot of the same. I'm afraid I can't really go beyond that. Is my first move is trying to get the students interested. Because without the students, I'm just a kid with an idea or two. That's where I stand.
So you're asking, what do I plan to do before I get students involved to make sure? I want to make sure that the Senate and myself and the cabinet are on the same page, and that we're ready to come at this with a fighting chance. That we have ideas in place, but that we're open to things. And I want to make sure that I have good leadership around me, because I really have been inspired by the leaders that have already come up and helped me throughout this campaign. And I know that there are so many more out there. And I want to make sure that they're all involved before we reach out to the students, and that we are all on the same page in things and working as a team and as a unit, and that we have a good goal in mind.
You guys are talking about, y'all are talking about community and how you want to work together and these things. I'm just curious, Lauren, you say you have a lot of funding through alumni or something. In the event you don't win, how would you help Dawn to push for that funding into the SGA? And Dawn, what would you bring to Lauren to help her if you don't win?
If I were not to be elected, I hope Dawn knows that any resource that I have gained while attending King or campaigning is at his full use. The alumni that have raised the $300 and some thousand, it wasn't very hard for me to reach out to them. I literally just sent them a Facebook message and just showing concern and have maintained that connection. And I would hope that he would be willing to work with me and I can give him those contacts. Whether or not, as far as the Board of Trustee members go, they only come on campus twice a year, and some of them don't live in the community, but I would be more than happy to introduce them to him.
I'm afraid all the alumni connections I have were the ones who weren't able to contribute very much to that growing pot. So, in the event that I wasn't elected, I would keep myself involved by trying to get people interested in the SGA. A lot of what I'm doing now. I figure I'm not so much here to win so much as to run. And in the event I didn't win, I'd keep promoting the SGA. I'd keep students interested in trying to get more people involved in the community to try and help further the cause. That's one thing that I appreciate that Lauren and I can share, is that we both want to see a positive change in our school. And I figure that's worth supporting regardless of the stance.
We keep talking about commuters, residents, everybody that's here. A very large growing number of Keene students, just like the traditional students, are the satellite campuses and the online students. Obviously, I don't feel like they're going to want to be as involved as the students on campus, but there still will be concerns that they may have or that they may bring to the table, various things. What are you going to do if it comes down to a situation where you have to decide between what may be the masses in these or the satellite campuses and the online students? They want something to happen, they need a change, and you have to decide between them and the traditional students. What kind of things would you do to deal with that? Like, how would you address that situation specifically?
Why would they have to be treated differently? I mean, yeah, they're online students and so on. But that doesn't mean they're not a part of this. If they're in a position where they can come in for events and activities, make it so. Bring activities more to the satellite campuses. I mean, I've been to Kingsport and Knoxville both. Lovely places, really. The students there are just wonderful, and I can see sort of what you're talking about.